From recycled puppet show props to catastrophic on-set breakages, the Doctor's most iconic gadget has a backstory stranger than any alien adventure. This seemingly simple tool has sparked legal battles, survived bizarre design mishaps, and even created time paradoxes that would make the TARDIS jealous. Here are 15 weird facts you didn't know about the sonic screwdriver. Fact 1. Recycled from Thunderbirds and Captain Scarlet. The third Doctor's iconic sonic screwdriver wasn't originally made for Doctor Who at all, and its origins trace back to two completely different science fiction shows that had nothing to do with the Time Lord. When the BBC needed a new prop for Jon Pertwee's Doctor in the early 1970s, they didn't build something from scratch. Instead, they raided the prop storage from Gerry Anderson's puppet shows and combined two separate pieces to create what would become one of television's most recognizable gadgets. The main silver body of the sonic screwdriver actually started its life in the 1966 film Thunderbirds Are Go, where it appeared as a simple twist-action screwdriver used by Alan Tracy during a live-action sequence. The prop even had the black spiral strip around the neck that would later be seen on the third Doctor's version. Meanwhile, the top section with the red ring, silver bullet, and black neckpiece came from Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons, where it served as a communicator for the character Captain Blue in an episode called Model Spy that aired in 1967. After Gerry Anderson's studios cleared out their props, the BBC acquired these pieces along with many others and repurposed them for Doctor Who. The sonic screwdriver made its first appearance in this new form during the Season 8 story Colony in Space in 1971, where it was briefly used as a futuristic handcuff key before being redressed with colored electrical tape and paint to become the Doctor's sonic screwdriver in the same serial. This cobbled-together prop would go on to serve the third, fourth, and fifth Doctors for an impressive 11 consecutive years until 1982, making it one of the longest-lasting props in the show's history. Fact 2. Matt Smith broke it on his first day. When Matt Smith arrived for his very first day of filming as the 11th Doctor, he was handed a brand new sonic screwdriver prop that had taken weeks to design and build, representing a completely redesigned version of the iconic tool that would define his era as the Time Lord. The prop maker, Nick Roboto, delivered the sonic screwdriver to the set at a beach location that Doctor Who fans would later nickname Bad Wolf Bay. And after handing it over to the standby props team with careful instructions on how to handle it and change the batteries, the pristine new prop was finally given to Matt Smith himself. What happened next became an instant nightmare for the production crew, because within just a few minutes of receiving the sonic screwdriver and having a look at it, Matt Smith promptly pulled the entire device apart into two separate pieces while he was playing around with it and examining how it worked. The prop had been designed so that the extending claws at the top were meant to be gently pushed open with a thumb, but Smith pulled on the metal cage section and accidentally yanked the whole assembly apart, completely separating the components in a way they were never intended to come apart. The prop team had to quickly step in and perform an emergency repair by tightening a specific grub screw that held the pieces together. And only after this hasty fix could filming actually begin. This incident on the very first day of shooting made it immediately clear to Nick Roboto and the props department that they would need to make the sonic screwdriver significantly stronger and more durable to withstand the way actors would actually handle it during the demanding schedule of television production. Fact 3. The wrist flick nearly destroyed production. Matt Smith's iconic wrist-flicking move to extend the 11th Doctor's sonic screwdriver was never part of the original design plan, and when he first decided to do it on set, prop maker Nick Roboto watched what he later described as happening in quiet horror, because he immediately knew it would have serious consequences for the durability of the prop. The sonic screwdriver had been carefully engineered with a mechanism that was meant to be gently extended by pushing with a thumb, similar to how you might open a pocket knife slowly and carefully. But Smith had other ideas about how the Doctor would use this futuristic tool. When Smith flicked his wrist to snap the sonic open in a quick dramatic motion during filming, it admittedly looked great on camera and perfectly matched his more energetic and frenetic interpretation of the character. But the violent snapping action put enormous stress on the delicate internal mechanisms and joints that were never designed to handle that kind of force. Over the next 2 weeks following that first wrist flick, Robota was required to build 3 additional sonic screwdriver props just to keep up with the demand, because the originals simply couldn't withstand the repeated impact of Smith's signature move. The props team had to completely redesign the internal structure to make it strong enough for the flicking movement, adding brass rivets to keep the copper struts securely attached to the main body, and installing extra grub screws to hold the top collar in place. They also added an internal dampener to absorb the impact of the flicking motion and reduced the opening movement from 2 inches down to just 1 inch to minimize the stress on the components during each dramatic extension. Fact 4. The original prop mysteriously vanished. The classic sonic screwdriver prop that served 3 different Doctors across an impressive 11-year span from 1971 to 1982 has completely vanished, and despite being one of the most iconic props in Doctor Who history, nobody knows where it ended up or whether it even still exists today. This particular sonic screwdriver, which originally began its life in the Thunderbirds film before being repurposed for Jon Pertwee's 3rd Doctor, went through numerous paint jobs and modifications over the years as it was handed down from Pertwee to Tom Baker's 4th Doctor and finally to Peter Davison's 5th Doctor, making it an incredibly significant piece of television history. After the sonic screwdriver was deliberately destroyed on screen during the 5th Doctor serial The Visitation in 1982, the prop should have been carefully preserved or archived given its long service to the show. But instead it seems to have simply disappeared into thin air sometime during the 1980s. According to reports and rumors that have circulated among Doctor Who fans and prop collectors over the years, producer John Nathan Turner allegedly kept the historic prop in his office for a number of years after it was retired from active use on the show, but at some point it mysteriously vanished from the BBC offices. Despite various rumors about what might have happened to this legendary piece of television memorabilia, the actual whereabouts of the original prop remain completely unknown to this day, and whether it was lost, stolen, accidentally thrown away, or is sitting forgotten in someone's private collection continues to be one of the unsolved mysteries of Doctor Who production history. Fact 5. Invented by a writer who never got credit. Victor Pemberton, the writer who created the sonic screwdriver for the Patrick Troughton serial Fury from the Deep in 1968, never received any payment or credit for inventing what would become one of the most commercially successful and widely merchandised items in Doctor Who history. The BBC retained full ownership of the sonic screwdriver concept as part of their standard rights to anything created for their programs, which meant that despite Pemberton being the person who came up with the idea and introduced it to the show, he had no legal claim to any recognition or financial compensation when the device became an iconic part of the series. In an interview with Doctor Who magazine years later, Pemberton expressed his frustration about the situation in very clear terms, stating that he was very cross that the sonic screwdriver, which I invented, has been marketed with no credit to myself. He went on to explain that while it was one thing not to receive any payment for the countless toys, replicas, and merchandise items that have been sold featuring the sonic screwdriver over the decades, it was another thing entirely not to receive any credit or acknowledgement for creating it in the first place. The sonic screwdriver first appeared in Pemberton's script when the 2nd Doctor used it to literally unscrew some screws and amplify his companion Victoria's screams to defeat parasitic seaweed, and from that relatively simple beginning, it evolved into the multifunctional tool that has been featured in hundreds of episodes and generated millions in merchandise sales. Despite creating this enduring element of Doctor Who mythology, Pemberton's name rarely appears in discussions about the sonic screwdriver's origins, and his contribution has largely been overshadowed by the device's subsequent popularity. Fact 6. Written out because it made writing too easy. Producer John Nathan Turner made the deliberate decision to permanently remove the sonic screwdriver from Doctor Who in 1982 because he believed the device had become far too convenient for writers and was actually limiting the quality of stories being produced for the show. Nathan Turner felt that the sonic screwdriver had evolved into a cure-all solution that writers would rely on whenever they needed to get the Doctor out of a difficult situation, which meant that instead of coming up with creative and interesting ways for the Doctor to solve problems, scripts were becoming lazy and predictable, with the sonic serving as an easy answer to almost every obstacle. The sonic screwdriver met its on-screen end during the 5th Doctor serial The Visitation, when a pteroleptial alien deliberately destroyed it with a weapon blast to prevent the Doctor from escaping. And the Doctor responded with the memorable line, "I feel as if you've just killed an old friend." What many fans don't know is that the original script, written by Eric Saward, actually included a follow-up scene where the Doctor would simply go to the TARDIS and retrieve a replacement sonic screwdriver from a cupboard full of spare ones, which would have completely undermined the significance of its destruction. John Nathan Turner personally vetoed this replacement scene because he was absolutely insistent that the sonic screwdriver would not return to the show, believing that removing it would force writers to create more compelling and thoughtful storylines that didn't rely on a magical device to solve every problem. The sonic screwdriver remained absent from the classic series for the rest of its original run, only making a brief return in the 1996 television movie before becoming a permanent fixture again when the show was revived in 2005. Fact 7. Tom Baker's ad-libbed sonic lance covered a mistake. During the filming of Robot, which was Tom Baker's debut story as the 4th Doctor in Season 12, a prop malfunction turned into one of the most memorable improvised moments in Doctor Who history when the entire emitter assembly at the top of the sonic screwdriver accidentally fell off inside Tom Baker's pocket before a crucial scene. The emitter assembly, which included the neckpiece, the red ring, and the silver bullet tip, was supposed to stay securely attached to the main body of the sonic screwdriver, but the connection had apparently loosened without anyone noticing until Baker pulled the prop out and discovered it was missing its top section. Rather than stopping production to fix the prop or find a replacement, Baker simply went ahead and used the sonic screwdriver without its top piece to detonate landmines in the scene, holding up what was essentially just the silver handle portion of the device. Later, within the same scene, when Baker was reattaching the emitter assembly back onto the sonic screwdriver after it had been retrieved from his pocket, he supposedly ad-libbed the line, "Turns into a miniature sonic lance, you see," to explain why the sonic screwdriver had looked different moments earlier and to cover up the fact that the prop had broken. This quick-thinking improvisation not only saved the scene from needing to be reshot, but it also inadvertently introduced the concept of the sonic screwdriver having different modes or configurations, with the sonic lance becoming a reference point that would occasionally be mentioned in later Doctor Who stories and spin-off media as an alternate function of the device. Fact 8. The 3 Doctors had a one-off prop due to loss. The sonic screwdriver that appeared in the 10th anniversary special, The 3 Doctors, during the 1972 to 1973 season, looked completely different from any other version of the device, featuring a bulky design with a thick black grip and a large plastic red spherical head that made it almost unrecognizable as the same prop that had been used in previous episodes. This bizarre-looking substitute was so unusual that when producer Barry Letts watched the DVD commentary years later, he couldn't even identify it as being the sonic screwdriver at all, and remarked on how thick and strange the prop appeared, which prompted actress Katie Manning to question whether it was actually meant to be a sonic screwdriver in the first place. The reason for this dramatic change in appearance was that the original sonic screwdriver prop had gone missing during the recording of Carnival of Monsters in 1973, which forced the production team to quickly build a temporary replacement prop that could be used for the rest of the season. The confusing part for viewers was that The Three Doctors was recorded after Carnival of Monsters, but was set before it in the show's timeline. And because Doctor Who episodes were frequently produced out of their intended transmission order, this meant the temporary replacement prop appeared on screen first before audiences ever saw the regular sonic screwdriver disappear. After The Three Doctors aired with its unique one-time-only prop, the sonic screwdriver reverted back to its previous familiar appearance for one more story, before receiving a more permanent redesign that would carry it through the rest of Jon Pertwee's tenure as the Third Doctor and beyond. Fact 9. Romana built a better one and the Doctor was jealous. During the Season 17 story The Horns of Nimon, the Doctor's companion Romana, who was herself a Time Lord and therefore had considerable technical knowledge, decided to construct her own version of the sonic screwdriver rather than relying on borrowing the Doctor's whenever she needed to use one. When Romana revealed her creation while they were working together to repair a battleship's engines, the Fourth Doctor was immediately impressed by what she had designed because her sonic screwdriver was noticeably sleeker and more elegant than his own somewhat bulky and well-worn version, and it also included features that his didn't have, such as a built-in silencer function. The Doctor was so envious of Romana's superior design that he attempted to sneakily swap his sonic screwdriver for hers when she wasn't paying attention, trying to make it look like an accidental mix-up rather than a deliberate theft of her better equipment. However, Romana caught him in the act of trying to substitute his sonic for hers, and immediately called him out on what he was attempting to do, firmly refusing to go along with the exchange, and keeping her own sonic screwdriver for herself despite the Doctor's clear desire to upgrade to her improved model. Later in the same story, Romana accidentally left her sonic screwdriver behind on the bridge of the ship during a confrontation with the co-pilot, and when she later realized she needed it to open a locked door, she discovered that she had misplaced it during the earlier scene. The original Romana sonic screwdriver prop was made from metal with drilled holes and turned grooves, decorated with colored electrical tape similar to Jon Pertwee's version, and it made only this single televised appearance during the classic series run. Fact 10. The 13th Doctor made hers from spoons. When Jodie Whittaker's 13th Doctor crash-landed in Sheffield at the beginning of her era in the episode The Woman Who Fell to Earth, she had lost her previous incarnation's sonic screwdriver along with everything else in her pockets during the fall from the TARDIS, which meant she needed to build a completely new one from scratch using whatever materials she could find in 21st century Earth. The Doctor ended up in a warehouse full of junk and scrap materials, and in one of the most unusual origin stories for any sonic screwdriver, she literally melted down a collection of old spoons using a blowtorch to create the steel frame for her new device. The choice of Sheffield as the location for this makeshift construction was deliberate, because Sheffield, England, has a long and famous history of industrial steelworks, tool-making, and knife production, which made it the perfect setting for the Doctor to forge a new sonic screwdriver from locally available materials. When the Doctor finished building her creation after hammering, soldering, gluing, chiseling, welding, and finally freezing all the components into place, she proudly proclaimed that the new sonic screwdriver was made from Sheffield steel, emphasizing the connection to the city's industrial heritage. The 13th Doctor's sonic had a distinctive curved steel frame that protected a golden crystalline heart at its center, which was actually taken from an alien Stenza transport chamber that had been abandoned nearby, and the device also featured a tiny screen for studying readings. The Doctor described her new creation as being like a sonic Swiss Army knife without the knife, explaining that it functioned as a screwdriver, scanner, diagnostics tool, and even a tin opener for whatever adventures lay ahead. Fact 11. It doesn't work on wood, a plot device. Limitation. The sonic screwdriver's well-known inability to work on wood or wooden objects has nothing to do with the actual science of how sonic waves interact with different materials, and is instead a completely deliberate writing limitation that was added by showrunner Russell T Davies when Doctor Who was revived in 2005 to prevent the sonic from becoming an overpowered tool that could solve every single problem the Doctor encountered. Davies was concerned that if the sonic screwdriver could open any lock, manipulate any material, and fix any situation without restrictions, then writers would have no way to create tension or challenge for the Doctor, and stories would become predictable and boring because the sonic would always provide an easy solution. The in-universe explanation that was eventually given for this limitation appeared in the 2014 episode In the Forest of the Night, where the Doctor explained that the sonic screwdriver works by manipulating the moving parts in various types of machinery and mechanical devices, and since plant tissue and wood lack any moving parts or mechanisms to manipulate, the sonic screwdriver simply has no effect on them. This explanation was meant to make the limitation seem logical within the context of the show's science fiction rules, even though the real reason was purely practical from a storytelling perspective. Along with the wood limitation, Davies also introduced the concept of deadlock seals, which are special types of locks that the sonic screwdriver cannot open regardless of what material they're made from, providing writers with another tool to create obstacles that the Doctor couldn't simply sonic his way through. These deliberately imposed weaknesses have become running jokes throughout the modern series, with characters occasionally complaining about the sonic's ineffectiveness against wood, while the Doctor defensively tells them not to criticize his favorite gadget. Fact 12. The future sonic created a time. Paradox River Song's sonic screwdriver represents one of the most complex time paradoxes in Doctor Who history, creating what's known as a bootstrap paradox, where an object exists in a closed loop with no clear point of origin. The 12th Doctor gave River her sonic screwdriver during their final date together at the Singing Towers of Darillium in the 2015 Christmas special, The Husbands of River Song, and he did this knowing full well that she would eventually use this exact device when she met his 10th incarnation in the library during the 2008 episodes Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead. The paradox becomes even more intricate because the 12th Doctor specifically modified River's sonic screwdriver to include a hidden neural relay that was secretly linked to River's own consciousness. And when River sacrificed herself to save everyone trapped in the library's computer system, the 10th Doctor was able to use that neural relay to upload and preserve River's consciousness into the library's data core, effectively saving her from permanent death. This means the 12th Doctor created the sonic screwdriver specifically so that his past self would have the tool necessary to save River, but he only knew to do this because he had already witnessed the events as the 10th Doctor and remembered that River had possessed this specially modified sonic. The entire timeline creates a closed loop where the sonic screwdriver enables its own existence through time travel, with no clear answer to the question of where the original idea for the neural relay modification actually came from, since the 12th Doctor copied it from the version he saw as the 10th Doctor, which only existed because the 12th Doctor created it. Fact 13. Production sometimes used the toy version. During the Matt Smith and Peter Capaldi eras of Doctor Who, the production team discovered a cost-effective solution for protecting their expensive handmade hero props by occasionally substituting commercially available toy sonic screwdrivers manufactured by Character Options during certain types of scenes. The hero props that were used for most filming were meticulously crafted by hand, with dozens of individual components made from various metals and materials, and each one took weeks to build and cost a significant amount of money to produce, which meant that losing or damaging one during filming would create both financial problems and production delays. To protect these valuable hero props from potential destruction, the production team would strategically use the Character Options toy versions during stunt scenes or any sequences where the sonic screwdriver might be dropped, thrown, or otherwise put at risk of being damaged or lost. These toy versions were readily available at a fraction of the cost of the hero props, which made them perfect sacrificial substitutes for dangerous scenes, and because they were mass-produced to look reasonably similar to the screen-used props, they could pass for the real thing in most shots as long as the camera wasn't too close. Specific examples of episodes where toy sonic screwdrivers were used include Rings of a Cotton and Deep Breath, and by the nature of how filming works, some close-up shots from these same scenes would also inadvertently feature the toy versions. Additionally, during Peter Capaldi's tenure, his character's office set was decorated with a collection of sonic screwdrivers displayed in a cup on his desk, and this collection included a mixture of both fan-made replicas and character options toys rather than expensive screen-accurate props. Fact 14. The 11th Doctor's sonic required 50-plus components. The 11th Doctor's sonic screwdriver, which was introduced when Matt Smith took over the role in 2010, was one of the most complex and intricate props ever created for Doctor Who, requiring an extraordinary level of craftsmanship and technical skill to produce. Prop maker Nick Roboto spent approximately 2 weeks building the very first version of this sonic screwdriver, and the finished prop contained over 50 different individual components that were manufactured from a wide variety of materials, including copper, brass, aluminum, leather, and resin, each of which had to be precisely crafted and then carefully assembled together to create the final device. The construction process for this single prop involved multiple sophisticated techniques and required Roboto to use nearly every skill in his professional toolkit, including intricate hand sculpting to create the fine details and textures, hot metal casting to produce the metallic components, advanced three-dimensional printing technology for certain precise elements, detailed artworking to add the finishing touches and weathering effects, resin casting for duplicating specific parts, and specialized electron work for the internal mechanisms and electronic components that made the lights function properly. The complexity of the 11th Doctor's sonic screwdriver was a significant step up from previous versions, partly because the new design featured moving parts, including the extendable metal claws at the tip that could open and close, as well as internal mechanisms that had to be sturdy enough to withstand the rigors of daily filming while still maintaining the delicate appearance that the design required. This level of complexity meant that even minor repairs or modifications to the prop could be time-consuming. And it also explained why Matt Smith's decision to flick the sonic open with his wrist created such immediate concerns for the production team. Fact 15. Capaldi refused to extend his sonic. When Peter Capaldi took over the role of the 12th Doctor, he inherited the same sonic screwdriver prop that Matt Smith had used as the 11th Doctor. But Capaldi made a very deliberate choice not to perform the signature wrist-flicking move that had become so closely associated with his predecessor's portrayal of the character. According to prop maker Nick Roboto, who spoke with the standby props master about this decision, Capaldi specifically refused to flick or extend the sonic screwdriver because he felt that it was Matt's thing, meaning he wanted to establish his own distinct way of using the device rather than copying the mannerisms and gestures that audiences had come to associate with the previous Doctor. This conscious decision to differentiate himself from Matt Smith led the production team to take some unusual measures to ensure that the sonic screwdriver wouldn't accidentally extend during filming, and they actually glued some of the hero props permanently closed so that the extending mechanism was completely disabled. This modification meant that even if Capaldi or another actor accidentally triggered the mechanism, the claws at the top would remain in their closed position and maintain continuity with Capaldi's deliberate choice not to extend the device during his tenure as the Doctor. However, despite these precautions, at least one accidental extension still managed to make it into a broadcast episode during The Caretaker, when the sonic screwdriver can be seen in its extended position at the end of a scene where Clara is hugging Danny, even though it hadn't been extended in any of the previous shots from that sequence. This continuity error seemed to occur because the mechanism was triggered unintentionally during filming, demonstrating that even with some props glued shut, the production couldn't completely prevent the occasional mishap. The occasional mishap. The occasional mishap. The occasional mishap.